Welcome to the Oxygen Alliance YouTube channel, where we bring you videos on installation, maintenance, and various trainings on oxygen equipment and devices. If you have comments and or questions, drop them in the comment section below or write to us info@oxygenalliance.org. Remember to like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell.
Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's partner talk brought to you by Oxygen Alliance. My name is Lloyd Kaembe. I'm a biomedical engineer for Oxygen Alliance, and I'm excited to be your host today. The partner talk is a virtual meeting where we discuss various topics related to medical oxygen. I'm hosting this call from Malawi, and I would like to know where you're joining us from by typing your name and location in the chat. If you want to be added to our email list and get notifications of upcoming events by the Oxygen Alliance, please type your email in the chat. Today, we have a very informative presentation from the Association of Biomedical Engineers in Malawi, ABEM. So they will expound more on the remarkable journey in establishing a professional society. So on the deck, we have Mr. Roland Jumira, the president of ABEM, and he's a biomedical engineer at Nest 360. We also have Mr. Bahat Lawrence Zimba, a biomedical engineer and a lecturer at the Malawi University of Science and Technology, MAST. And we're also supposed to have Mr. Kingsley Kwesere, a biomedical engineer at Partners in Health, but he's not going to be available today, but we acknowledge his contribution to this presentation. I'm excited that we are all here, and I encourage you to take notes as we look forward to hearing your questions and your comments at the end of the presentation. So without taking much of the time, let me hand over the floor to Roland Jumira, the president of ABEM. Over to you, sir.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be part of this panel discussion where we're going to share an experience on setting up a professional society. Yeah, so as Lloyd has said, my name is Roland Jumira. I'm a biomedical engineer by profession, and currently I'm working with Nest 360 as a clinical research where we do test neonatal technologies that are currently being developed. Yeah, so I'm so excited that I can take you through this presentation as the president of the Association of Biomedical Engineering in Malawi. Welcome everyone who have joined from various countries, from various regions. And yeah, so we will be looking at a case of biomedical engineering in Malawi. Biomedical engineering, usually this is a profession that is responsible for innovation, research, and development, design, selection, management, and whereas safe use of all types of medical devices. And the key objective of biomedical engineers is to make sure that devices are of good quality, effective for the intended purpose, and also they're available as well as accessible for use, and making sure they are also affordable. And to make sure that this is fulfilled, health technology policies are supposed to be in the national health plans. We also have to have available human resource and financial resources. And moreover, we need to have scientific and technological advances that make sure that we use updated knowledge that we get from these advances. Yeah, so I would like, before I proceed further, that I can briefly give you an overview of the state of biomedical engineering in Malawi. In case we also have various people that are joining from countries other than Malawi. So in the past, the Ministry of Health under the Malawi government relied heavily on the biomedical engineers and technicians that were coming outside of the country, for instance, Europe, and as well as other African countries like South Africa, Kenya, and many more. But then we also had the other engineers, other technicians working, but these were usually coming from the traditional engineering fields, for instance, electrical and mechanical, with maybe training from other countries in terms of biomedical engineering practice. It was until 2012 where the University of Malawi, under the Polytechnic, which is now called Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, started offering programs where technicians majoring into biomedical engineering were being trained. So these were being offered diploma programs. Then come forward to 2014, the Malawi University of Science and Technology now started offering biomedical engineering programs under the degree programs to train biomedical engineers locally in the country. Then 2019, we actually had the first cohort of locally trained biomedical engineers. And then followed the MUBAS also started offering degree programs. And since 2019, the number of biomedical engineers in Malawi have been increasing. However, very few have been employed under the Ministry of Health, but some ventured into private practice, distributing companies, while others who are working in the non-governmental organizations. Yeah, so we have had challenges as a country under the and as well as opportunities that we can look at. So one of the major challenges that the profession has been facing is the lack of that recognition. So starting from the ministry, when you come into practice and the hospitals that we have in Malawi, the recognition of biomedical engineers has really been too low. Even though there have been mentioning of biomedical engineers in national health plans, but very implementation in the practice of the profession has really been low. And usually biomedical engineers have been operating under the well-recognized profession like doctors and nursing. So biomedical engineers were like operating from the background. Sometimes when you could ask who biomedical engineers are, you find people would not, even health workers, fellow health workers would not really understand what biomedical engineers are or what they do. Another challenge that we have been facing in Malawi, it's inadequate transition from school, biomedical engineers graduating, going into the market. There have been like a bit of a slow transition rate. I think that is really something that as a country we really need to work on. So other challenges included the slow implementation of policies that supports biomedical engineering, limited resources. You talk about spare parts and the financial infrastructure, and also advanced technology. So even though we are progressing, but these have been really a challenge in the country. We also talk about unavailability of specialized education or training programs in the country. So this is something, as biomedical engineering as a profession, there's a need for specialization. And usually, if you would like to specialize, you'd go maybe outside the country. And most importantly, the challenge that we also have to really look at is the regulatory framework. So as a profession, we know you cannot just be a profession that is really coordinated and properly regulated. So this is an area where we are lacking like clear regulations, pathway either for medical devices, for the profession. So these are some of the challenges that as a country we are facing in terms of biomedical engineering as a profession. Despite these challenges, we still have some opportunities that we can see and utilize. So there's a surge for the need of low-cost medical devices. So this is an opportunity where biomedical engineers can bring in impactful innovations that can really support the healthcare system in the country. This also have an opportunity to increase healthcare access. If we have technologies that are affordable, then it means the healthcare access will really reach out to more people that require healthy services. There are also opportunities to do with collaborations and partnership as a new profession that is also multidisciplinary. There's this opportunity where we can go into partnership. Finally, I would just talk about the local talent development. So as a profession that is growing, it means there's an opportunity to develop this talent locally instead of relying from expertise outside the country. Yeah, so now we need to talk about professional societies and why it is important that we have professional societies, in particular here in Malawi as an association of biomedical engineers. So a key to formalize a profession works in stages. So you talk about training schools, you talk about regulatory authorities, you talk about specialization. So it is a society, like a professional society, like Biomedical Engineering Association. These can work in trying to bring in evolution and spread of specialized knowledge through research, training, certification of skills, and also recognizing the excellency which define the field. So in order for biomedical engineering to be something that will be recognized, it means we need to be excellent. So a professional society is a key to make sure that this happens. And with acceleration of scientific and technological pressures, it's an opportunity for new professions like an association here in Malawi biomedical engineers to form so that we can address society needs and opportunities that are rising. So the challenges that we mentioned, the opportunities that we mentioned, in order to have a strong voice, in order to have strong policies and implement them, there is a need of a professional society to make sure that these are really implemented. So to ensure that this is done, we need strategies and methods that will work around in the management of the technologies that are coming out globally as well as in the country. Yeah, so for every profession, there is a common and recognized element that define that profession. So we need to have organized scientific and technological knowledge. We cannot just work as just any other field, but as a professional, we need that organized scientific knowledge. There is also working in multidisciplinary team as some element or competencies that are required for the profession. There was also technological management methodologies that are supposed to be put in place and make sure that they are being practiced. So the list of competences continues to really grow as healthcare systems become more complex. But in order for us as a profession to grow, we need to work together as an association, as a professional body. We need to work with the government to ensure that we implement the policies, the plans that are put in place in these national plans. So it is really important that an association is active to make sure that as a profession we can grow. As I mentioned, that the profession of biomedical engineering has been working in the shadows. Usually, one of the factors is the lack of official research and the dissemination of information about the presence and the essence value of the biomedical engineering profession. So you would agree with me that when you hear about medicine, when you hear the word doctor, you give relevance when you hear such thing, because they operate under scientific knowledge. They operate with the under research that are being produced. So us as a biomedical engineers as a profession, we also need to venture into evidence-based knowledge. Otherwise, we cannot just be talking about the profession unless we show that there is value through research, and we disseminate that information to reach out to the wider community. Yeah, so I would now want to talk about the experience that we have faced as setting up the association. So us as a body that is practicing in biomedical engineering, we aim to stand for those professions and also other relevant disciplines that would relate to biomedical engineering. So in Malawi, primarily the idea of coming up with the association started in 2020 with an increase of graduate biomedical engineers. A national WhatsApp group was formed to facilitate the establishment of the association. And we, of course, officially registered the association in 2023. So you can see the gap there. You have an idea in 2020, but you are actually registering in 2023, like 2 years after that. So I will talk about that in the challenges that we have encountered so far. And currently, we set up a team that comprises the president, the vice president, the general secretary, and the vice, as well as the treasury general, with executive members, with a primary focus to establish a legal society that is credible and they have the capacity to carry out the mission and objectives that are set. Yeah, so typically the process is that you and the one that we used, so through the platform that we set, we had need to form the leadership and board of directors to be identified. Then we had to start working on the development of a constitution, the log and common sales. So we had even to involve a legal practitioner to be verifying the constitution. Then we are required to register with the Registrar's General Office in the under the Malawi government. So we had to register. Then we also had to go, after having the certificate, we had to go and introduce ourselves as a society and seek support from the line ministry. So biomedical engineering, something that is working in the health field, we had to seek approval from the Ministry of Health. Then we were also required to go through the Office of the President and Cabinet for vetting and approval. Also register with the Malawi Regulatory Authority, that is the tax office. There was also a need mandated to open a corporate bank account, as well as registering with the Council for Non-Governmental Organization here in Malawi. Then the final step has also, you need to register with the NGO board, which governs the and regulate the non-governmental organizations. Now, the focus area for the association, primarily, we know the power of advocacy. So we are focusing on advocacy for the recognition, position, and identity of the biomedical engineering as a critical profession for the safe and quality care in Malawi. So as I mentioned, that if you're not recognized, you can hardly operate under such an environment. So even when you maybe in the ministry, there are technical working groups. So if you are not recognized as a profession, that is critical. You can hardly push in for policies that will support biomedical engineering, for plans that maybe will support biomedical engineering. That's why this is a critical area that we need to focus as an association. And another is to safeguard the interest of the biomedical engineers in relation to the professional practice and the working environment. The capacity building development for the Association of Biomedical Engineering as an institution. So we are looking at to grow as an institution so that we can develop and execute programs to fulfill our mandate as an association. We also focus on promoting the development and advancement of the biomedical engineering profession in Malawi. That is through networking, research, knowledge sharing, and the standardization of biomedical engineering practice. Yeah, so that's the membership registration. So currently we had to set up an online registration form where we register where those who are required to register, they go there to register. So currently we have 3 membership categories: students, graduates, and professionals. So once you register, you show your interest to be part and parcel of the association so that you can be involved in the activities that the association undertakes. So you are also required to renew and subscribe every year in order for you to sustain your membership in the association. Yeah, so I would like to talk about the membership and how our registration process has been going. So you can see the graph to your left. There's a national group where we estimate the potential members, the biomedical engineers that are there, either students, graduates. So we have a national group, WhatsApp, where we can discuss issues arising. So you can see we are around 328, but the number is still more because some have not really joined. So from there, we encourage members to register. So we have about 241 people who registered in the association. And among those, we have 93 members registering as paid members. So for you to be involved in the activities, committees, you have to be a paid member. So you can see the membership calendar is still low, but to us as an association, we see that we have moved in just less than a year to have such kind of membership subscription. So among those who registered, about 35% are students, 48% are professionals, and around 17 the graduates. And among these, you can see we also identify which area are you working, who are you working as a biomedical engineer. And most people who registered, they are working as clinical engineers with the following service or sales engineers. Others are self-employed, others are working in academics and the likes. So we also have medical physicists in the profession, in the association. So we because in the setup of the Ministry of Health in Malawi, medical physicists and biomedical engineers and placed under the same umbrella in the Ministry of Health. Yeah, so maybe this will also be something that will be important for those aspiring to either start their profession association in their country. I know that maybe some countries have already have that their association established. Some maybe there are even more than 10 associations, but maybe they're failing to consolidate together and work together. But we, as an association in Malawi biomedical engineers, what we had to implement, we had to put this in 3 steps. So the first step was setting about leadership. making sure that we register with the relevant bodies, that is getting certifications from the government, then encouraging membership registration. We also had to come up with a work plan that we had to be following. So this is just a brief of what we implemented in the work plan. And also we had now to focus on stakeholder identification and analysis, because we know that for an association to operate, as much as members are main stakeholder, but we also have the ministry and non-governmental organizations that are important to the cause. And these are the stakeholders that we reach out and work together in order to promote biomedical engineering. We also had to open a bank account because we had to make sure that the funds that we might receive as an association is not received in a personal account. This is important for an association that is just starting. So step 2, we had to now focus on stakeholder engagement after analyzing. So we had to identify stakeholders that we'll be working with. Fortunately, NEST 360 and the Oxygen Alliance really come in to be very few organizations that really had very much keen interest in order to promote biomedical engineering in the country, and these are the ones that we started working with as the initial partners that we started with. However, we also had to start engaging with the other relevant organization stakeholders. So the Ministry of Health is also a major stakeholder. So we also identified the academic institutions, regulatory bodies, and here in Malawi we have 2 that regulates general engineering, that is Malawi Institute of Engineering, and when you're working in the medical field, the Medical Council of Malawi. So we had to make sure that we engage these so that we can be expanding from the ones that we started out with. Now we also had to focus on publicity, that is make sure our presence online is there, opening website, currently is still under development. Also planning to release a newsletter as soon as we have been having committees to work on that. And also we had to focus on capacity building, so starting from the leaders in the association, as well as also planning to having like webinars with the members, as well as the seminars that we can be updating each other on the status and the progress of the field. So we also had to work on membership certification, establishing departments, calling for volunteers. This is important when you're starting as an association, because most people, you don't have funds to run the association and you depend on these volunteers to be working out. Yeah, so our next step, which already started in step 2, is setting up of a physical office. So we are working with the partners and other organizations that we can have a physical office, and should there be maybe partners also listening here that are willing to support, that those are also asked that they can come in, because we are planning to have 3 offices in all the 3 regions. So the last step is we want to launch, have a strategy for 5 years and launch the association, conduct regional awareness campaigns, then also to hold our first National Biomedical Engineering Symposium and the annual general conference. And we'll also be focusing on grants application, skill and development, that is seminars, also having international engagement, while we are proceeding with the other advocacy strategies. Yeah, so that is in our plan, that is our organogram that we are aiming to reach, even though we are not operating at a full capacity, but we are going towards there. So yeah, so on the milestones, I think I've somehow mentioned this. So registering the association, having accounts, and also targeting members, engagements that we have had, and also establishing committees to be working in various areas of focus, like research and innovation, fundraising, media, as well as ethics and professionalism. So we're also having a women chapter to deliberately encourage participation of women in the profession. Yeah, so lastly, I would like to end by just sharing the challenges that we have faced and the lessons that we have learned. So one of the biggest challenge that we have faced is defining the objective and focus. You know, you have a group of students, you have a group of graduates, professionals, and even those who have been practicing in the field. For you to focus on one area, it really becomes a challenge. And somehow that's what maybe took us about 2 years just to really come up with a legal entity that can be accepted and recognized in the nation. So another is establishing credibility. So other organizations would challenge, maybe would not see us as really fully developed. So that is an area that also that we have faced the challenges, membership and recruitment. Yeah, so somehow you can see around 300 people, biomedical engineers, we currently have 93 paid members, which means we really need to work on that. For an association to have a mandate, it's also in numbers. The more we are, it means we also carry out a bigger force whenever we want to do our things. So funding resources has also been a challenge, but still more, we are trying to reach out and see how we can strategize. So leadership and governance, that is also another challenge and important area that other people in the countries that are trying to set up an association, they should focus on how they can build their leadership and the governance of the association. I would just say, lastly, maybe share on the partnership alliances. So that has been a challenge to maybe come up with meetings. You know, when you're just starting and you're not really known outside as a profession, it really becomes difficult that you can meet with the organization to reach that you have come to that point where you form alliances or partnership, as well as maybe job opportunities. So maybe members would also focus on that, while maybe as committee you are trying to balance out how do we help our members to reach out to have more opportunities. At the same time, how do we make our organization to have the capacity to carry its mandate? Otherwise, these challenges requires really careful planning, and you have to make sure that you engage stakeholders and ensure that you have effective communication strategies put in place. And lastly, you have to understand the trends of the industry in the member states and what your members, who are the first stakeholders of the association, really needs. Otherwise, let me share, let me stop from there, but maybe you can just share the last slide while I'm also introducing the next presenter who will be sharing on the future of the biomedical engineering profession in Malawi and the prospect that we have in the country. So over to you, Mr. Bahati. Thank you for listening to this first part. Otherwise, let's continue.
Okay, thank you very much, Roland, for your presentation. I will touch much on the current status, the status quo of biomedical engineering in Malawi, and also look at the future perspectives of the profession. So, if we look at the Malawian perspective, you would agree with me that we have more centered on medical equipment maintenance as biomedical engineers, and we have left other professions untouched. So Roland briefly talked about how the profession has actually developed and evolved over the years, and we have been having biomedical engineers for like since the 1980s or so. You can go to the next 2 slides. Yeah, so since the 1980s, we have been having biomedical engineers. But then up to now, it still seems that the profession is still in the infancy stage. Now the question is there political will, to grow this profession? Apart from that, the biomedical engineers that are on the ground, what are we doing? Have we done enough to actually turn the tables around? And further to that, is there any way that we can actually, or what we can do to actually break these barriers that hinder the growth of the biomedical engineering profession? So these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves as we're moving into the future. As a biomedical engineering field and profession in Malawi, Africa, and Africa at large, we need to answer these questions. So you'd see that looking at the current perspective, go to the next two slides. Looking at the current perspective, we see the future. So the future is there. When you ask me about biomedical engineering in Malawi or in Africa at large, we have a future, because if you try to compare the current situation, the current status of biomedical engineering profession, and if you try to go back in a few years, 10 or 2 or 3 decades ago, you'd see that right now we are having a workforce that is a little bit skilled, So we are gaining a bit of ground and knowledge. We are producing a little bit more skilled personnel right now as biomedical engineers than they were previously. Previously in Malawi, we could actually send people to Kenya, to Asia, in Europe, to do the short courses. They'll go there for 3 months training, 4 months training, sometimes even just a few weeks training, and then they'll come back and start working as biomedical technicians. You see, so that created a very big knowledge gap in terms of how we can actually tackle biomedical engineering problems on the ground. But at least right now, with the workforce being a little bit more skilled, there has also been a better understanding of the profession. If you try to go around in the hospitals now, if you ask nurses, doctors, or laboratory technologists or technicians, you ask them about biomedical engineering. Now they're trying to get to understand what biomedical engineering is all about. A few years ago, you'd ask questions about biomedical engineering, and very few people would actually be knowledgeable about what biomedical engineers do in the hospital. So right now, things are a little bit good, and the future really, really looks bright for biomedical engineering profession in Africa and Malawi, and Malawi particularly. Further to that, the industry itself is also growing. So there are a lot more players that are actually coming into the field. The organizations like NEST, Oxygen Alliance, these training institutions, they're coming in. There are service providers that are providing medical equipment and medical suppliers and consumers. They're coming into the industry. So the industry is growing, which is a good thing, which shows that there is future for biomedical engineering. And on top of that, even the training institutions, they're expanding. We only started with, I think, diploma courses in Malawi, but right now we have 2 institutions that are actually training, bachelor's degree programs. So we are producing biomedical engineers now, right there in the country. You see, so the future is there. The future looks bright. The employment-wise, not so good. Of course, we are slowly gaining ground. So the employment prospects are a little bit slow in terms of their movement, but we have the hope and trust that actually moving forward, we'll actually break through into the medical field as biomedical engineers, and then we'll be as marketable as we ought to be. So looking at the current challenges, one would tend to ask to say, okay, fine, if you say that we have a bright future, yet we have these challenges, what should we do? What needs to be done for us to realize the bright future that we're talking about? So in my opinion, I've actually put out these few points to say, if we can try to tackle these things, then probably we can land ourselves into the future that we're actually dreaming of as of now. And the first thing is that, working in silos is not necessarily in our nature as engineers. Engineers, we bang heads, we meet, we discuss ideas. There's convergence of ideas. That's how engineers work. But now, if biomedical engineers, we start working in silos, or institutions that are training biomedical engineering start working in silos, then things are not going to work. The future that we're dreaming about is not going to be realized. If you look at our training institutions, they are just operating in silos. There is no proper communication and coordination between the training institutions, let alone with the medical setup. There is poor communication between the training institutions and the Ministry of Health and the hospitals and even the private sector. So we need to stop working in silos. And that goes to the second point, which says that we need to enhance the partnerships and collaborations. If we have good partners, if we can try to capture some collaborations between institutions and organizations, then we can be able to aid in the problem solving, the problems that are affecting biomedical engineers. If you look at our training institutions, some of us who are here, you would agree with me that some of you went through the training as biomedical engineers and you never saw the inside of an oxygen concentrator in your entire training duration. You only saw an oxygen concentrator when you went out for attachments or when you went out for the industrial visits. So we need these collaborations and partnerships, which can actually help us, to bring or attract other organizations to actually help us where we are actually falling short. And a good example is if you're looking at our medical system setup, there is a lot of equipment that is just lying idle. Fine, they're damaged, but I think they can be very much useful if we can actually try to scavenge some of those equipment, bring them to training institutions, so that when we are telling students to say, this is a transistor or this is a sensor, they should be able to see those things. If we're talking about a sieve bed in an oxygen concentrator, someone has to see it and appreciate. You don't have to see those things when you go to the training institutions. So that is on the enhancement of partnerships and collaborations. Then the third point is that we need to make deliberate efforts to sell this profession. And this goes to the Association of Biomedical Engineering in Malawi, the Ministry of Health, and the training institutions, and probably all the other players in the industry. We need to sell the profession. Let people know what biomedical engineers are capable of doing. We are not only there in the field as technicians of medical equipment. No, there is more to biomedical engineering than just maintaining an oxygen concentrator or a BCPAP. So we can do more, and people only know if we are able to sell the profession to them. Let's sell the profession to prospective employers. The people that are working in different organizations, they should know that despite that we are not in the medical field, but we still need we can still need help of a biomedical engineer. So they will be able to employ biomedical engineers. And the fourth point, which to me I think is the most important point, is that we need to re-evaluate the biomedical engineering curriculum in Malawi. Our biomedical engineering curriculum has given us an impression that biomedical engineering is all about maintaining medical equipment, being at the pump. That's what the curriculum is actually driving the graduates to. You see, so we need to evaluate these biomedical engineering curriculum that we're using. There is more to it. Let's look at the other focus areas. There is biomechanics in biomedical engineering. There's tissue engineering. There are biomaterials. We talk about medical imaging. There's signal processing. There's medical informatics. All those things fall within biomedical engineering. So we need to cultivate a culture whereby our students should be able to be exposed to all these variables in biomedical engineering, so that when they finish their school, they should be able to see which options or which directions should they take their career to. So we are being limited because our mindsets have been set to say a biomedical engineer has to work in a hospital and you have to be maintaining medical equipment, which is not the case. Then we need to refurbish our laboratories in our training institutions. I think I've talked about that. Then we should also be able to accept that we don't have certain expatriates within our field. And if we don't have people who are expatriates in a particular field, we should not shy in trying to call other people from other countries, call expatriates to come and train you in that particular field. 2-3 years down the line, you will not need the expatriates anymore. You have your own people who can actually train people in that particular field. So some of the problems that we're having is because we only focus within Malawi. In the end, we don't get the expatriates, and we are creating a narrow focus field of biomedical engineering. And lastly, I think there is need to revise the structure of the Ministry of Health, where we can be able now to incorporate a lot more biomedical engineers within the medical system. We need to have biomedical engineers at every district hospital, not just one, probably maybe 4 or 5 biomedical engineers at every district hospital. We need to have biomedical engineers at rural, whichever they call them, rural hospitals. Those are big hospitals. They should have at least 1 or 2 biomedical engineers there. So if we can revise the structure, we'll actually expand, the numbers of biomedical engineers in the system, which is going to help us quite a lot. And as I'm moving towards the end of my presentation, I would like to talk about the current trends in biomedical engineering. Now, these are the things that are out there, that are gaining ground out there. So if we're only limited to being at the PAM, physical assets management, or just being, focusing on the medical equipment, maintaining medical equipment, we will not know what is actually happening out there in terms of biomedical engineering. So these are the current trends in biomedical engineering. And the first is on tissue engineering. These are not ranked in any order, but there is tissue engineering. Tissue engineering is gaining so much ground out there. And this field is the field within biomedical engineering. Very few people are confident and competent enough to handle issues or to handle projects under tissue engineering. Why? Because we're lacking in terms of knowledge. So we need to realize that this is a hot topic out there, and you can actually jump on it, and you can make a fortune out of that. You can make yourself marketable out of that. The second one is wearable devices. We have had proper training in medical devices and medical equipment. This topic on wearable devices is also one of the hot topics out there, where you can be able to produce a device that can be able to track vital signs or whatever signals that are coming from the body of the person, and then you can relay those messages to whether it's the doctors or the nurses or whoever is interested in that knowledge and information. So this is also one of the current trends out there, and we should also be able to jump on that as biomedical engineers. There is also an issue to do with bioprinting. Bioprinting is also one of those good topics that are actually very much marketable and common out there right now, which talks about 3D printing using bioink, implants and the like. There is also nanorobots, which is heavily used in drug delivery systems, where you are targeting to say this drug, you create a nanorobot and you actually incorporate a drug with that nanorobot, and then you introduce it in the body system. Medical doctors are not going to do that. Nurses are not going to do that. Mechanical engineers, they're not going to do that. We're waiting for biomedical engineering to do this job. And if we don't have the capacity, then we are going to be left out. The train is going to pass by. And the last few trends include the artificial intelligence, which I think everyone here can agree with me. Then there is robotic surgery, and then there is prosthetics advances. In terms of prosthetics, that's biomechanics, purely biomechanics, you see. And we need to embrace and have a better grounding and understanding in biomechanics. You ask me, there are a lot of rehabilitation centers out there, but how many of those rehabilitation centers are having biomedical engineers there? Probably none, you see. So we need to keep on engaging. We need to keep on, involving different stakeholders so that we can actually, be carried on board on these current trends in biomedical engineering. So lastly, these are just some of the career prospects in biomedical engineering. So we should not just think about becoming a biomedical engineer. You can become a clinical engineer. You can become a rehabilitation engineer. You can become a quality assurance engineer. So all these career prospects are out there for us to grab on them, So after doing your bachelor's degree or after doing your diploma in biomedical engineering, consider to try to do certain professional courses that can actually see you penetrating some of these career prospects, So you don't just have to say, oh, I have a biomedical engineering degree, then you sit there. No, some will only just need for you to go and do an M&E training or an M&E course, which is just 6 months, and then you become marketable. You need sometimes just to do a little bit of a regulatory training course, and then you become marketable in the regulatory affairs departments, you see. So some of these things we need to look at it from an inner perspective, and then we'll be able to go whichever career that we can actually think of. So that is in brief what I wanted to share with you in the interest of time. Let me stop there. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for the wonderful and inspiring presentation. So let me open the floor to questions and comments. So feel free to raise your hand or type your question in the chat, and I'll make sure that I acknowledge you and grant you an opportunity to ask. So now is the time for comments and questions. All right, so I just see one question in the chat. So it says, it comes from Jean Luke from Partners Net. So it says, is it possible to be a member when you are from Malawi institutions? All right, so let me just read it again. Is it possible to be a member when you are not from a Malawian institution? Yeah, so let me hand over the question to the ABEM team.
Hello. Hi, thank you for such question. So currently, we are still expanding on the membership categories. We mainly focused those who are working like in the Malawian setup. However, we also have a proposition where you can be a member that you would like to, like an affiliate member. It's possible that as much as you are trying to maybe work together with the Association of Biomedical Engineering, you can be a member. Even though in the past, the way we started, those who were from outside the Malawi institutions were usually like partners in terms of organization. But in terms of individuals, that is something that we have not yet started because we know as we are growing, we'll be expanding. So that is a possibility that we can also consider such a category.
All right, thank you so much for that explanation. I don't know if Jim was that, are you satisfied with what Mr. President said? And if there's another question, you can also type in the chat or raise your hand. All right, so I see that there are no more questions and comments, but I thank you for attending this call. This marks the end of this presentation and this call. Thanks to the ABEM team for the wonderful presentation. It has really been an inspiring and educative session. So for all further questions, you can email us at info@oxygenalliance.org. Thank you all for attending this call. Until next time, goodbye.